cheering for her allies not from the sidelines like a traditional cheerleader would, but instead right up next to them on the battlefield. It is CHR00 Pompom-Mate, with a kit of Stat Cleanse, Tornado, Gatling, Biped Legs, and the leg ability of Mascot, which debuffs the success and base power of the enemy attacking her upon being attacked. Now, as essentially the counterpart to Roll Booty, who is debuting the same time as her at time of recording, Pompom-Mate is a model that focuses not just on supporting her allies on the field, but also providing exceptionally well-rounded cover fire, either for stalling enemies or prepping them or shield shredding them, to make it easier for someone to come behind and finish the job just as easily as she could potentially on her own under ideal circumstances. Stat Cleanse on the head is a healing skill that, upon activating and being triggered, will negate and cleanse all negative ailments of herself and all allies, and render everyone immune to ailments a certain number of hits. This can be exceptionally useful in keeping that pesky enemy with virus or freeze or shock or whatever, or even bug or deathlock off your tail, and keep it so that they can't affect you aside from whatever minimal damage they'll be causing you. Even if it only lasts up to 1 or 2 hits, depending on how it's used, it can still be very good for buying yourself a couple extra turns and outrunning or even outsmarting that pesky target that relies on ailments. Tornado on the right arm is a shooting skill, but is also a paralyze ailment that, upon attacking the target, will consume them and sweep them up in a gust of air, as befitting of a tornado. Now, it is also worth noting, though, that Tornado comes with an extra secret ingredient that, if you can make use of it and capitalize on it, can make Pompom-Mate an absolute menace on the field, and that is if you pair it off with anti-air. The reason for this is Tornado, upon sweeping the enemy in the air, will for a short time convert their leg type into flight, which means that they are, of course, much like native but flight type legs, weak and susceptible to anti-air weakness. So on a lot of competitive teams, you will very easily see this combo for a 1-2 strike lay waste to a lot of even viably competitively capable teams in a matter of 2 turns or fewer. Gatling on the left arm is a more conventional shooting skill that has a scattered AoE, meaning it will deal conventional damage to one part and then choose 2 others at random at an additional 1/3 damage. It is also worth noting that scattered AoE skills like Gatling also are very good for shield shredding as of the 3.2 patch. This means that instead of dealing only 1 hit per 1 shield charge per blow, it will now shred up to 3 upon use, making it very good for whittling down that shield a lot faster than ever before. Biped legs means she will have good coverage across all terrains as expected of a biped leg, and arguably one of the best well-rounded in terms of terrain matching. And her stats across the board aren't too shabby, especially as a mixed range auxiliary shooter or supporter that she's designed to be. With a head HP of about 2850, arms about 2650 each, and the legs at 3600 means she's not too shabby in the armor department, but also essentially par for the course when it comes to female armor and what they come packing with. So not super powerful, but also just a little bit squishy and some caution recommended. Her leg stats aren't too shabby either, with a mobility of 795 in that kind of upper middle tier of where biped legs really want to sit at in terms of their mobility, and at that point you can focus on your heat and cool stats to do the rest while on the field. An evade of 905 isn't too shabby either, as it means she will have a pretty decent time dodging or grazing a lot of incoming attacks, especially low success or blind ones. A melee resist of 651 is unfortunately not great though, as it does mean that up close and personal Pompom-Mate will most certainly be struggling to hold her own, and she will be taking a very noticeably higher amount of damage from incoming melee strikes. But she is able to comp for it with a very high shoot resist of 1239, which means she can most certainly hold her own from afar and return pot shot for pot shot with that incoming sniper. All this being said, as a pure set score, I still do have to rate her pretty solid 6.5 out of 10. She has some pretty decent synergy with herself. Stat Cleanse you can honestly use pretty much anywhere and is a fantastic skill across the board. Tornado by itself, even if it has the shortest duration of all paralyzed skills, and even if you don't pair it with anti-air for that 2-turn nuke, it is still a very solid skill you can make use of for stalling more dangerous targets. Gatling, even as a conventional skill, you really can't ever go wrong with using either. And the leg ability of Mascot, even if it does require her to take damage, will progressively make the enemy more and more weaker by the turn for every time they're attacked, as it means it's more likely for her to dodge or graze upon being hit, and the attacks will be noticeably weaker the more times that she gets hammered. For mixed parts, I do very easily have to rate her just a little bit higher at a 7 out of 10, given that, again, even though her synergy isn't too bad, you can most certainly capitalize on these weaknesses elsewhere, on these pros elsewhere, depending on how you use them. Stat Cleanse, especially non-heavy, you can fit anywhere very, very easily. Tornado, if you pair it with Anti-Air, is a fantastic and menacingly nightmarish combo if you can build it right and time it. Gatling, of course, if you'd like to use something more conventional and not really have to focus on a cooldown penalty while using it, as well as making it a nice peppering skill for shredding shields or prepping for a nuke skill.